Well, hello there and welcome to the bathroom of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers for February 14th, the day of the Cool Quip. That's right. And here at the top of the page is a visual representational image of the day of the Cool Quip. There's a bit of an anomaly here. I don't quite know what to make of it. And we have us what looks to be, a handle on a ring with a little bit of a calligraphy curlicue coming out of the end. I don't know. The only thing I can really make of it is perhaps a dog whistle. That's right. Perhaps a dog whistle. Who's to say? That having been said, visual representational image aside, I don't know. It's not altogether all too important. I just like folks to kind of see what's going on the page, so you can be part of the paradigm with what's going on off screen. That having been said, what is important around here is it's February 14th, and so it's somebody's birthday. So if February 14th is your birthday, I just want to say happy birthday. That's what's important. Wishing you a happy birthday. But if this video finds you late, well, hey, I hope you had a happy birthday in that instance. But for everybody else joining us randomly, or more ideally to celebrate, well, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, and that is roll some dice. This is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake, but I do so, more importantly, for synchronicity's sake. And that was kind of a drop. Let's get an actual roll here. Let's see here. There we go. That sounded better. All right. A 6 and a 4 for a 10. And now, what is synchronicity? You're probably wondering. Well, my friends, a lot of times I get out in the world and, or as I hear it told, the world will put, or the universe, the higher powers that be, rather, will put things down in our path to help us manifest our goals or realize our aspirations. But a lot of the times when we get out in the world, we oftentimes have the blinders on because we're very narrow or singular of focus as we get after our errands or the commute to work, what have you. Not to say we don't necessarily see the things around us, but we might not lend them much credence. And so if the universe is putting things down in our path, well, we might not be apt to necessarily recognize them for what they are. And so this is a little bit of an exercise to help you take those blinders off and maybe pick up on those things that the universe is putting down for you. And how do we do that? Well, we need to learn to recognize such things. And how do you do that? Well, I'm not quite sure, but hey, here's an exercise to maybe help with as much. Maybe find a sign that we can't help but recognize. That's right, something we've agreed upon with the universe. Your daily numbers. That's right. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers that I rolled for you. The intention is there, but it's probably advisable you take your own set of dice if this is something you want to try exercising, all right? So you can ascribe directional values to number sets as well as time limits with which to go in those directions. That said, once you've established all this, if this is something you want to try out, hey, pick a spot that's near and dear to your heart, or perhaps some place you haven't necessarily explored all that much. To say the town square, as I often like to say. But once you've figured out your place to go explore, like I said, get those blinders off, because you never know, the day might start to take on a little bit of a theme. What kind of a theme? Well, who's to say? That's why you got to be eagle-eyed for everything that's going on around you, because you never know what might present outside of, say, your daily numbers. You take the visual representational image, for example. Maybe you just start to see a bunch of dogs all over the place, or people blowing whistles. To say, like, maybe there just happens to be a cop out there directing traffic with as much. Hey, there's a whistle. Or maybe it just so happens to be, a visual representation of as much. You might start seeing advertisements everywhere with whistles incorporated, or as an image on the side of a bus bench, or a sticker on the side of a transformer box. You know, those slap taggers like to put up random stuff. Hey, just signs that the universe is with you and telling you you're on the right path, I would say. But let's say you get after your first directional value and time limit. Hey, maybe you're not really seeing much of anything. Well, as I often like to say, take a moment to compose yourself. Just let things come in stride and open your eyes, see what's around you. Maybe you just so happen to notice something small, like you're on, what's this? 64th Avenue, perhaps. And I would take that as a sign you're on the right path, or 10th Avenue, whatever the case may be. So, again, the universe is with you on your path there. But hey, maybe you just start having to notice something random, like everybody seems to be on their phone. All right, hey, I know that's probably here nor there these days, but maybe it just stands out. Like everybody's talking on their phone. Again, might take something like that as a little bit of an anomaly. All right, maybe you just so happen as you're on this next leg of your journey and you're seeing those things kind of standing out. Well, hey, maybe there's one person in particular who isn't on their phone, and you know what? Maybe you wave to them, say hi, all right? And maybe they're so happen to, what's going on here? Can I help you? Hey, you know what? Oh, no, I just noticed you weren't on your phones. Call that kind of stuff out. And they go, yeah, so what? You go, well, look around. Everybody's on their phone. Okay, good to go. And they see you step down, roll your dice. They go, hey, what are you doing? You know what? Be transparent and open about what you're doing. Hey, I'm just out here on a synchronicity walk, trying to drum up a little bit of synchronicity or coincidence, if you like. Maybe show them this video, show them your dice, and they'll be like, that's crazy. Say, hey, I know it is. But I'm out here trying to stir things up, see a little bit of magic. And they go, well, you know, that's crazy too. But what's more crazy, it's my birthday too. Oh, how about that? It might seem a little bit crazy, I know, but you know what? You never know. It's not that far outside the realm of possibility. And hey, you know what? Maybe they're just so apt to join you on this journey, all right? Start seeing and stacking up coincidences. And maybe that was the whole point, you meeting this anomalous individual, all right? I would say that just so happens a smack of a magical kind of element. So I think you get the idea. Get out there, stack up some coincidences, look for some synchronicities, and any kind of sign that the universe is with you on your path. All right? I think you get the idea. Let's dive in with the birthday read. Your month is February. Your day is the 14th. Your sign is 24 to 26 degrees Aquarius of the Aquarius III period specifically. And your quality and element is fixed air. All right, February 14th, the day of the Cool Quip. Those quick-witted individuals born on February 14 are usually masters of the short, ironic, and sometimes devastating comment. They have what it takes to make people laugh, but also the capacity to make them think. They have, and abbreviators, they take what others might need an hour to say, roll it into an attractive little bon mot, and simply come across with it for all to hear. Lovers of jokes and stories, tellers of sometimes tall tales, and not above practical joking, February 14th people bring their witty outlook to bear on every aspect of life around them. None of this is meant to suggest that February 14th people are somehow superficial. Humor, eloquence, and acerbic comments are but a means of expression. It is true that those born on this day do not specialize in taking themselves, or life in general, it says in parentheticals, too seriously. But this in no way reflects on their work. It is more indicative of a philosophical outlook. Less highly evolved individuals born on this day can be overwhelmingly negative in their approach to life, sometimes behaving in a destructive or power-seeking manner. They can make the mistake of placing themselves above human laws and social rules, believing that they are somehow exempted from karma and the retribution of fate, bad energy, or the like. Characteristically, they are caught unawares when heavy blows fall. All February 14 people must beware of their irony turning to sarcasm, of adopting a mocking or derisive tone, and such an attitude only arouses opposition. And although others might find such dark humor funny for a time, it can inevitably wear rather thin. Of course, everybody likes a good laugh, but the ultimate concern may be the object of the laughter. And those February 14th people, capable of joking about themselves, are far more sensitive to this issue. But here as well, they must not allow self-depreciation to go too far. Speed of thought and mental concentration are pronounced in February 14th people. Their ability to focus on tasks in the middle of an uproar is quite remarkable. And yet those born on this day have a decidedly physical side as well. They enjoy all sorts of sensuous activities which allow their brains a well-needed rest. Not to have to talk can be a great luxury for these verbal people. Consequently, they may choose to spend their free time with those less intellectually oriented. Their friends are often earthy people who, though intelligent, know how to relax and have fun. In February 14, people must control their tendency to keep others on the defensive. Moreover, if they can apply some of their talent for critical insight to themselves, they will benefit greatly. Allowing themselves time alone away from their busy involvement with their surroundings is key. Well, all right. Quite the interesting birthday breakdown. But that having been said, it was rather narrowly focused. I would say surprisingly so. A lot of times these birthday breakdowns, they in this period they have been rather hyper focused, all the way back to maybe Capricorn. When other birthday breakdowns are pretty well rounded out, they kind of dive into what people's lives are like on a family level, friendship level, even as coworkers. Sometimes they'll even bring up what parents of these particular days should be mindful of. But all of that is rather absent here. And so I can't help but think they didn't really spend much time on diving into this in the way that they do a lot of the other birthday breakdowns. So it's a little bit of a disappointment for me in that regard, but I think they did flesh out the personality quite a bit within the narrow scope that they provided. So in no small part they did do you a service, but I can't help but think they did you a little bit of a disservice here. But I don't know. I can't be too hypercritical. It's not like I set out to write a book like this on my own. So that said, I like to provide a little bit of a commentary, if you like, on what we went over in the breakdown. So let's dive in with as much. Let me get the book here because I had to write a little bit of it in the book. So here we go. February 14th, the day of the Cool Quip. You're quick-witted individuals who are said to be masters with their comments, all right? And you not only have the ability to make people laugh, but perhaps most importantly, make them think as well. You're lovers of jokes, you're abbreviators, you're tellers of tales, and practical jokers. And those are all terms used to describe your way of relating your perception of the world. But you aren't superficial, they said. As many people may think. All right, so and you don't take things too seriously either, but you also have a capacity for a philosophical outlook, and I would say that's paramount to have if you're able to drill down on such things. You have a quick thing ready to say. You got to have a kind of an outside of the box way of thinking. So perhaps the dog whistle is a rather apt visual representational image of the day. And I say that because it's like a small, almost imperceivable little action with a very pronounced effect. It's going to make the dogs go crazy, if you like, all right? So maybe it has if it even is a dog whistle, who's to say? But having said that, the reading claims the lesser evolved individuals born on this day may be extremely negative, all right, and sometimes destructive, or even power-seeking, to the extent that they believe they're untouchable. Very interesting. And this may just be they may just be in for a surprise when life's hammer inevitably comes down, all right? Ostensibly to the delight of those who have endured such egomania, all right? The likes of which I can't imagine there's a cool quip to act as a solve for that kind of pain, all right? But beyond that, the reading makes no mention of how a higher evolved individual born on this day might be realized or how they may manifest. So again, they were kind of lacking in that regard. I think yesterday they did this too. They mentioned the lesser evolved individual, but not the higher evolved individual. So Aquarius has been a rather interesting anomalous period because they vacillate so much from the typical way they approach the writing. Might be deviating a little bit, but that's something I found of interest also. But I have to assume at the very least you've mastered the means of keeping irony if you're higher evolved. You've mastered the means of keeping irony from becoming sarcasm, avoided mocking tones, and you know the right time for otherwise dark humor. And in general, you know how to navigate any given swell to make for a rather even keel. All right, you know when to pick your moment if you're higher evolved, and how to have the most devastating effect. But maybe in good terms. Devastating, the wrong word, but maybe in a humorous fashion. All right. That said here, mention of your speed of thought does get mentioned. But that's a rather baked-in conclusion to draw for reasons that we'll get here to shortly. But interestingly, it's a striking anomaly rather is present with the birthday today, and that is, like I said, very precious little is really related outside of a capacity for a quip and your quickness of thought. Yeah, you may know how to relax and have fun, have earthly friends, enjoy sensuous activities, but by and large, I'd say the meat and potatoes of this day is just that you have the capacity to hold the attention with a good jib, all right? But I don't know, not much is said beyond that. What else does this extend to? I'm kind of wondering. What other value adds are you capable of contributing outside of something funny? So I like a lot of the elements of this breakdown, to be sure, but nothing really blew my hair back about it. So far as summations of a person go with regard to these typical breakdowns. Perhaps that in itself is ironic in that it fulfills the role of the title, all right? It's a cool quip. It's just enough to grab attention, but not a lot is said. And you know what's interesting here is a lot of these days in Aquarius, they've been doing that with the writing. They've been kind of going towards the theme of the day and doing as much with the writing. I don't know if it's been intentional, but it almost seems like it has been. But I also can't emphasize just how valuable a talent having this particular ability is. Not to poo-poo everything they've been saying, but somebody who has the capacity to encapsulate something and deliver it to just devastating effect, it's huge, it's admirable, it's enviable. So, like I said, I don't want to poo-poo the whole idea of this cool quip aspect. It's a huge trait to have. It's enviable, like I said. And insofar, it's just like the human form of being able to do a meme, if you like. And nobody can undervalue how much a meme is worth, right? It speaks to the cultural zeitgeist in a very encapsulated, specific way. And if you're able to do that with any given subject or term or thing that's going on in a situation, it's invaluable. Like I said, I wish they had mined it for more depth. You've got to be more than that, I would hope, all right? And I can't imagine that you're not more than that. So, in any event, that's what I'd say about the birthday breakdown. So let's dive in with your numbers and your planets. All right, let me get the book centered here for you so we can dive in. All right, those born on the 14th day of the month are ruled by the number 5 and by the speedy planet Mercury. The number 5 grants strongly developed mental abilities to February 14th people, which are reinforced by the influence of Uranus, or Uranus, depending upon how you like to say it, which is the ruler of the Aquarius zodiac sign. And for those February 14th people who suffer setbacks, it is fortunate that the number 5 bestows a resilient character, which recovers quickly from the hard knocks of life. All right. This is a rather sparse entry for the numbers and planets, but I would say they personalize it for you here a little bit. But again, this is kind of following a similar tack. They're kind of pulling back a little bit and not saying a whole lot, surprisingly. But hey, let's dive in here so I can get into why I mentioned that there was a specific reason why people on this day might be kind of quick-witted. So here we go. Let's get into it here. The number 5 and the speedy planet Mercury for quickness of thought and change, as mentioned in other numbers and planets entries, but not here. All right, why'd they leave this out? They had the room to impart it, and it speaks to who you are. This is the sparsest numbers and planets entry I do believe I've seen. Maybe not, but I mean, it's right in front of me, and it's like, geez, there's precious little here. But again, perhaps it's that self-fulfilling abbreviator manifestation with the writing that the authors are maybe trying to realize here. Just for you, because you're the day of the cool quip. And I can't help but think it's intentional, considering how many other times the writing in this period has followed a similar tack in this period, like I said. So maybe the writing serves that in a subtle way. Having said that, Uranus is said to shake up and electrify the planets that it co-rules with. And with Mercury, it's said to lend to your mental abilities, even more so, apparently. But with Uranus also being said to impart a desire to change the rules, rebellion, eccentricities, and just a different way of approaching things in life. Maybe a certain kind of sense here that this may be realized as a shaking up of your environments, right? Through your use of your wit. Maybe that's how it's realized. Uranus is changing up the Mercury there by allowing you to interact with your environment and shake that up, right? And I know I probably kind of said that with the writing, but that's just in case it didn't come across very coherent. So, any event, pretty interesting dynamic. A lot of times Uranus shakes things up in a negative way, but it would seem Mercury is one of the planets that kind of does so in a positive way. At least by my interpretation of things, not just today, but also in the past. Whereas some other planets, there's some negative effects in there to say. But any event, that's your numbers and planets. Hopefully I added a little bit of value to an otherwise sparse entry. Before we move on to your tarot. That's right. One of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But hey, it's here in the book. Sometimes we can make connections with things that were mentioned in the breakdown, flesh it out even further, or just make more connections, or impart something of some ostensible value. Hopefully. So let's dive in, see what we see, and then we just leave it in the book. We don't have to take it home and start predicting our future with as much. So let's get into it here. The 14th card of the major arcana is Temperance. The figure shown is a guardian angel who protects us and keeps us on an even keel. And such a figure emphasizes the need for balance and moderation in the lives of February 14 people. Positively seen, temperance modifies passions in order to allow for new truths to be learned and incorporated into one's life. The Temperance card urges February 14th people to establish and maintain their own ethical code and resist both seductive temptations and false behavior for the sake of personal growth. All right. They personalized this one for you here a little bit, which, you know what, they needed to, all right, because they dropped the ball with the numbers and planets, I would say. And a lot of times the numbers and planets is typically what gets the personalization, and they did that for you here in a little small part. But normally the tarot, they don't personalize it too much, but they did that here for you, I would argue. So at least they gave you something, all right. But let's see what else I can impart here for you. Let's see. The tarot card. They take Temperance, the guardian angel that keeps us on an even keel, for a bit of a synchronistic alignment, considering I made a sailing analogy and I hadn't at all read ahead to see that the even keel thing was part of the tarot thing. So it wasn't planned, a little bit synchronous there. Synchronistic rather. But also emphasizing a need for balance and moderation. Particularly apt, I would argue, with regard to concerns for how far you may push remarks and your behavior in general, especially with the lesser evolved individuals. Positives of modifying passions to allow for new truths to be learned and applied, urging to maintain your own ethics, they said. Insofar, again, as those lesser individuals are probably concerned. Who believe they're above the laws and social rules and the likes of karma. So I'm assuming. Rather hard to drill down on how much more this card may speak to you, considering, again, not much was really said, besides your mental acuity and your storytelling ability. But with such suggestions to direct your critical insights on yourself, they mentioned, the idea of discovering new ideas and hence applying them has a certain profound value, I would argue. And they may extend just more into leaning into that, all right? Be more critical on yourself, not necessarily the world outside that you're observing so much. I would say that's quite a bit of a valuable piece of profound insight, if you like. But having said that, that's your tarot. Again, hopefully imparted a little bit more value, something else to maybe consider for that philosophical outlook they said you had. Ostensibly with a mode of transportation now, the tarot card to say something we might have otherwise neglected. That's right. Maybe we can take some value for something we would have otherwise not giving any credence. But that said, that's been your tarot, so let's move on to your health. All right. Although they often convey a loose, relaxed image in their professional lives, whatever those are, because they don't mention it, February 14 people are nonetheless vulnerable to stress. And for this reason, they have to learn to sit on the sidelines more and relax, rather than so often monopolizing the group's attention. Keeping a distance from disturbances and unneeded stimulation and learning to calm themselves internally are key. Those born on February 14 must also beware of internalizing and repressing their aggressive instincts. And since this can ultimately spell serious physical problems, most often with their internal abdominal organs, cardiovascular, or endocrine systems. Particularly for February 14th people, drugs, including tobacco and alcohol, should be avoided, or at the very least, restricted. A balanced, well-rounded diet and moderate to vigorous physical exercise are both recommended. All right. Here we go. This was a little bit of an anomalous health entry for this particular period because they actually were, they drilled back down more into how they normally approach these entries. Aquarius, they've been vacillating, and each day is kind of unique in how they've been relating as much. But hey, probably getting ahead of myself. Let's dive back into the notes, shall we? It says you're vulnerable to stress despite a loose and relaxed kind of image. So recommendations, foregoing the spotlight, all right? Taking a step back, maybe letting some other people shine a little bit. And this is not a new suggestion. It actually popped up yesterday because those folks like to steal the spotlight and just maintain it, whereas, they might be overshadowing other people. So something to keep in mind, and maybe a little bit of a through theme here to some extent. So what else do you have to say here? They said cultivate calm. You might have a more aggressive nature, perhaps Uranus energy shaking up that speedy, excitable Mercury energy. And they said avoiding repressing that aggression as well. But they also mentioned vigorous exercise. And this is a bit of an anomaly, not just for the sake of Mercury. I don't think often gets this particular one. They might, because they're speedy folks. But Mars usually gets the aggressive, vigorous exercise, ostensibly to excise their aggressiveness or their god of war energy. But in this period, Uranus has been shaking everything up, and I don't think a single Mars day has gotten aggressive exercise. They get moderate. And so a lot of the contrasting values there have been being incorporated into such things. So maybe that's why you got vigorous exercise. Or ostensibly it's to help you excise that aggressive energy yourself. So a little bit of an anomaly in that regard. But what else do we have here? There might also be a historical precedent, perhaps, to say like some of the individuals that come up having been born on this day, they needed to express as much. Who's to say? That might be why they drilled down on it. But an avoidance of drugs comes up, and this in no small part has presented on a few of the health days, ostensibly because the body area, one of the body areas for Aquarius is the circulatory system, and so heart health has been presenting itself. To that end, they don't really speak to any specific foods you should drill down on incorporating into your diet, and that is a huge anomaly because in every other zodiac period, they're pretty religious about imparting some kind of recommendation outside of, I don't know what they said here for you, a balanced, well-rounded diet. What is that really saying? So in the Capricorn period specifically, their body area was the veins, and so that's very close to the circulatory system. And pretty religiously, they were getting the diet of cutting out animal fats as well as dairy fats, ostensibly so they'd keep their veins free and clear of cholesterol. One of the few days that popped up for Aquarius specifically talked about cutting out sugar and meat, ostensibly to help with your heart health. And so I can't help but think that's also why avoidance of stimulants and tobacco and the like are brought up also. Another area for the Aquarius is the lower legs and the ankles specifically. So I've been recommending folks get themselves a pair of compression socks. Another thing you need to be mindful of that's come up once or twice is embolism and the likes of stroke. varicose veins, and so a compression socks would ostensibly help with that. And those kinds of things don't really come up for any other zodiac period, to my recollection, though maybe one. That having been said, those are your body areas, the recommendations for your diet, even though it wasn't mentioned here in the book itself, but hopefully imparted a little bit of value, like I've said before. But that's been your health, so let's move on to some advice. All right, your advice here. Direct your energy into positive endeavors and be sensitive to what others are feeling and weigh your words before speaking. Slow down a bit, it says. Slow down, rather. And silence often says more than speech. All right. Hey, you know what? They tend to impart a lot of value with the advice. Once or twice, they've been kind of, they said not a lot. I think one particular day, they really just said the same thing over and over again, but in different ways. And it's kind of apt for the day. I think it was something those folks really needed to hear. And so they were making sure they found some way for them to hear it. That having been said, that doesn't apply to you. Let's dive into what I have to say about what they had to say. All right, they said direct your energy in positive directions, right? Maybe not just for the lesser evolved, all right? Maybe these quips and mental gymnastics can be applied to more beneficial aims, perhaps projects or endeavors. And you need, what else do we have here? Endeavors and projects that need quick-witted individuals. That's right. Don't just throw it out there to get a laugh. Maybe you can put it to more value-added kind of endeavors. All right. What else do I have to say here? Be sensitive to others' feelings and weigh your words. I would say that's part and parcel with making light of people or situations, all right? Even if there's no ill intent. You know, some folks are apt to get sore or take offense, and then you're going to have to backpedal or you're going to have to get into that particular sticky situation. So consider those particular situations, or if it's even worth getting in that particular situation for yourself. And I'm sure if you do this for a living, ostensibly, like, you know how to navigate those things, or maybe even pick up on the indicators that these particular individuals should be stayed away from. And I would say maybe consider that they aren't worth wasting your energy or your mind space on, all right? Save those quips and that kind of stuff for people who are actually going to appreciate it, all right? And then you won't feel like your time is wasted. But again, I'm pretty sure you know how to navigate that particular stuff if it's something you live with and it defines your very essence to the extent the breakdown seems to make it seem to apply. Because you are apparently a very shallow individual with nothing else going on for themselves, which I can't imagine the case. But in any event, I think the argument stands. You probably know what you're doing. What else did they say here? Slow down a bit, all right? Mercury folks are fast, all right? But that probably doesn't mean you have to be, all right? You may also start to outpace yourself. You might be going too hot, too fast, too ready, like the Little Caesars pizza, and you know what? You sacrifice a little bit of quality and taste there within that particular metaphor. So what else do they have to say here? Silence often says more than speech. All right, that's a little bit of some Hitler philosophy there. That guy, he would get up there, from what I hear, and he wouldn't start a speech until everybody was quiet. You could hear a pin drop, and that's in stadiums packed full of people. So there's a power in silence. And then once everybody was quiet, then it would take off, all right? Not to try to bring up some dictator that everybody hates, but, you know, we can learn things from other individuals sometimes. So also, on a more positive note, not just to bring up some dictator that everybody hates, consider Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton and how they were able to make use of silence, everything that they did, all right? So what else do I have here? May even inspire your creativity if you impose certain constraints. You got to think of music and, okay, we're going to do a song in the key of whatever. So you have to play within that particular environment. All right, maybe silence is that way of doing so. Or maybe you can crack wise on people without having to say a word. All right, make it a challenge, perhaps. What else do they have to say? I think they just want to emphasize that you don't always have to be on or making a splash, even if it's a small one. All right, so that's what I had to say about your advice. Let's move on to your meditation. That's right, it's your birthday, you get a meditation. All right, here we go. Verbal cuts do not heal as quickly as those made with a knife. Oh, I like this one for you. I really do. Once again, verbal cuts do not heal as quickly as those made with a knife. All right. That's your meditation there. I'm not going to put my spin on it or my interpretation on it. It seems pretty cut and clear, so to speak. But even if I did have an interpretation, I wouldn't give it to you because it kind of defeat the purpose, now wouldn't it? So that's your birthday, your meditation. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's hold up the objective mirror, but see where we've maybe got the gains and where we're ostensibly a little more deflated or atrophied, if you like, within the metaphor. That's right. Your strengths, you're witty. You're facile, which means, what do we got here? You're able to do something with very little effort, and you're entertaining. All right, but your weaknesses. Oh, let's hold that objective mirror up and flip it to the side that blows up your face. That's right, maybe it shows off the things you're otherwise a little more superficially insecure about, even though the breakdown said you're not superficial individuals. That's right, your weaknesses. Okay, you're over-aggressive, you're cutting, and you're hurtful. Oh, you're hurtful. Oh, my Lord. Over-aggressive. You know, that's interesting. They kind of brought up aggressive a little bit, but I didn't really get the idea that that applied to you, all right, outside of the lesser evolved individuals. And I don't even know that they said they were aggressive. They just didn't really necessarily care about other folks. That having been said, a lot of times I like to argue that our weaknesses can be strengths. It just depends upon the situation and the individual. And I say that because a month or two ago, the word impulsive came up as a strength for somebody. But the very next day, it was a weakness. So here I'm thinking, like, what's the disconnect? How can there be such a stark juxtaposition on such a proximal day, right? And I think it just has to do with the individual in the situation. So a lot of times I also like to say that your strengths are going to help you overcome your weaknesses if there's something they even need to be improved upon. Because I think weaknesses in a lot of cases can also be strengths. Like I said, it just depends on the situation. Over-aggressive, cutting, hurtful. Hey, you know what? Maybe there's an individual who needs to be brought down to size, all right? And you've got the tools to make that occur. And I think they're just trying to say, like, you know what? This can get out of hand, all right? And it might not serve you in the long run. Also, to say bringing someone down to size, hey, maybe it's not the best choice or course of action. But again, maybe it is. I don't know. That's up for you. You're the one who knows how to judge the situation. You have the capacity to do as much. That being said, you're witty, you're facile and entertaining. Hey, I would say you're going to find inventive ways to bring your weaknesses down or improve upon them if need be. But I also like to argue, hey, you know what? Let's not get rid of our weaknesses altogether because, you know what? They're part of making us who we are. So there's value in there somewhere, all right? That said, that's been your strengths and your weaknesses. So let's move on to those born on this day. When we get into those born on this day, not only do we get to see who shares your company, but something I like to do is look at this or take it as an opportunity to focus on figuring out our passions. Because too often I get out in the world and meet individuals, ask them what they do, but more importantly, if they like it, they don't. All right. And I don't think we can blame individuals. It's just, you know, they got out of school, right into a job to make ends meet. They didn't have the time to put into work and the energy to figure out, you know, their passions or maybe even what they like to do. They just had to get into that job and do it. Now they're in this rut, all right? Maybe they're just, or maybe they're climbing the corporate ladder and they found something that they're, you know, kind of good at, or at least they can ride on it and keep it going, fill in the coffers. But you know what? At the very root of it, the fatal flaw, it's not something that they enjoy or even like to do. And, you know, it's great to have money, but you know what? I would say it's important that we're doing something we find fulfilling, a purpose, if you like, a passion. It's going to make life more, not just more endurable, but more worthwhile. All right. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to not only see who shares your company, but maybe take some inspiration and help rekindle our fires if that's something that may have gone out, or hey, maybe just give us the kindling to start getting after that fire. All right. So let's use the opportunity, see who shares your company, and put the bug in your ear about chasing after or figuring out your passion. All right, we start off with Frederick Douglass, the African-American abolitionist, writer, journalist, orator, consul general to Haiti. We also have Thomas Malthus, a British clergyman and economist, and famous for an essay on the principle of population. We also have Gregory Hines, the dancer, choreographer, film actor, stage director, and famous for Jelly's Last Jam. We also have James Hoffa, the Teamster Union president and sentenced for criminal activities, sentence commuted, and disappeared, assumed murdered. We also have Paul Tsongas, the T might be silent, I'm not sure, a Massachusetts governor, presidential candidate. We also have Jack Benny, the stage, radio, TV, film comedian, and actor. We also have Molly Ringwald, the film actress, Hugh Downs, a TV personality of 2020 fame and also the news program host. We have Mel Allen, a sportscaster, Carl Bernstein, a Watergate journalist, along with Woodward, who uncovered the Watergate scandal and the co-writer of All the President's Men. We also have Christopher Scholes, a typewriter inventor, an Excelsior Church founder. We also have Johnny Longden, a jockey and the Triple Crown winner, and the first to win 6,000 races, it says. We also have Mickey Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, Wright, women's golf champion, four-time U.S. Open LPGA winner. We also have Byron Nelson, a golfer as well, two-time Masters, two-time PGA, U.S. Open winner. Alan Parker, the British film director of Midnight Express. We also have Magic Sam, who was a blues singer, or perhaps still is, and a songwriter and guitarist. Marion Mahoney Griffin, an architect. We also have Robert R. Young, a railroad baron, stock exchange speculator. We also have Jim Kelly, who was a Buffalo Bills quarterback and the third all-time in passing efficiency, it says. Though that may have been improved upon as older the book is. And we also have Ken Wall, a TV actor and of Wise Guy fame. And that has been those born on this day. And I butchered a few names in there, I reckon. So let's make up for it on my side of things by doing some butchering. It's not done in malice. It's just Hooked on Phonics isn't the best tool to try to sound out names in a lot of cases. But that having been said, that essentially rounds out your birthday reading. I know it's a big-ass, tall order to try and take inspiration from other people's accomplishments. But hey, like I said, if I can just put the bug in your ear about stirring up the fires of inspiration to get after our passions, carve out some time, even though we may not think we have any of it. Hey, I think it's worth your while to do that. Because if I can wish for you for anything on your birthday, it's that you're chasing after your passions. But if you got all that figured out, well, then the hat I'm not wearing is off to you in that regard. So that said, like I said, it essentially rounds out your birthday reading, except to say your season is winter, your sign is Aquarius, of the Aquarius III period specifically. And your quality and element, like I said at the top, is fixed air. And what does that mean? Well, that's a different video altogether. I'll leave it at the end for you if you're interested. But this has been February 14th, the day of the dog whistle, or the cool quip, if you like. Assuming it was a dog whistle. From The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and use Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description, right above a personal message I like to lay out for the birthday boys and girls, or ladies and gents if you like. But this thing makes an excellent coffee table book. If you're in the market to say, I don't know, break the ice at a party, this thing's gonna get it done for sure, especially if you're tired of doing the cool quips for the evening. Hey, you know what? Maybe we'll let this do some of the heavy lifting. But I assume you would rather drill down on being the life of the party. But you know what? If you want to step out of the spotlight, like I said, this is here for you if you're interested. And it supports the channel in the bargain if you go through that link and save the hassle, have to type it in a browser there. But that said, the book having been related, not altogether all too important in the scheme of things. That's because it's your birthday, and like I said at the top, what's important around here? Wishing you a happy birthday. So happy birthday once again. And for everybody else who joined us to celebrate, I just want to say I hope you enjoyed yourselves, took something of value for yourself as well, because we can take inspiration from any kind of avenue, right? But I hope to see you over on your birthday read. That's right. But lest I forget before I take us out here, your daily numbers. All right, get out there, let the universe show you it's with you on your path. See, taste, touch, smell, intuit a little bit of the magic. You'll understand why I brought it up. You should be out there having some fun on your birthday, I would argue. So if there's nothing else to be done, get out there and let the universe show you it's with you on your path. You get it. You get it. All right. So once again, I just want to say happy birthday. I want to thank you for the pleasure of your time. It was a privilege to celebrate your birthday with you. And so once again, go get you some compression socks. Take care of those varicosities in the veins and prevent the stroke if you like. Keep those quips rolling out, keep it cool, enliven the party. But you know what? Be measured about it, all right? Moderation. Stay cool, loose, and relaxed and all of that, all right? I think you get it. You know what you're doing. But once again, hey, happy birthday, all right? Take care of yourselves.